We are moving in and out of time. We're breaking into open skies. We're doing it like butterflies, because the world is spinning round and round. We are moving in and out of time. We're breaking into open skies. We're doing it like butterflies, because the world is spinning round and round. Slow motion, yeah. We are moving in and out of time. We're breaking into open skies, because the future's done come and gone, and the past is only catching over, yeah. I want to be you in your youth. I want to be the children laughing in the garden of your dreams, the learning mother and the wise old woman who soothe your esteem when life disappoints you on so many occasions. But most times, I want to taste your laughter, be the color and slope of your gums, your giggles, and lie awake on the land of your tongue in contemplation, so that when I've rested enough, I can begin to fall like speech from the unfolding margins of your existence. Let me share one life, at least one night at the edge of your feet, and walk the gentle summers your prints have footed. I want to go back into time, way back into the unknown, and erase all your pain. I want to hold on to all that ever made you laugh. Let me hear your whispers aloud in the secret of your lonely being. I want to be you, a choice and a love poem, speaking in the dialect of our desires. I want to drink from the breeze that came to those who heard and listened to you sing. So let me walk with you. Let me walk you. Let me scroll you from beginning to no end. Let me climb you like a song of survival. I want to be 7 and under the skin below your dress. I want to touch your the smooth of your baby thighs. I want to touch the smooth of your baby thighs and wrap them with bandages to seal the untold pain. I want to be 17 and play God at the entrance to your innocence. I want to sing hymns to your hymen and protect it against painful raptures. I want to comfort her, tell her not to be afraid of rapists and men seeking to conquer the sweet at our rivers. So let me walk with you. Let me walk you. Let me scroll you from beginning to no end. Let me climb you like a song of survival. I want to dance and play tapscotch on the keys of the piano you so wanted to play. Roll myself in the flavor of your moves. At the assembly of your heart, I want to mumble sweet little nothings to the air that makes it beat, knowing that the absence of your physicality, even that very absence to your physicality, will bring you closer to everything that I touch and breathe. See, everything I see is smeared with your gaze. So let me dip my wings in your aura right before I am forced to grow, right before I am called to wake up and lead. I want to be you, living, loving, and lying awake at night. I want to be the fire in your eyes and read all the signs of your time. I want to read them over and over again. I want to bring them back to breath over and over again. I want to speak with all your trusted saints and demons. I want to speak to them in hushed tones so that they can come down when I am in conversation with your sonnet. So let me walk with you. Let me walk you. Let me walk with you. Let me walk you. Allow me to walk by you so I can learn how to tell our people's stories. Let me walk with you. Let me walk with you. So let me walk with you. So let me walk with you. 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 Thank you.
For those of you who didn't have the opportunity to come yesterday evening, this is Natalia Molebatsi. The book, sorry, yeah. This was Natalia Molebatsi who just recited that wonderful poem, and she was actually asked to bring that particular poem and those particular words by Tommy Hayes for a special remembrance. So thank you very much, Natalia. And she's reminding me that she has for sale copies of her most recent book, Sourdough Dance. And if you missed last night, well, too bad for you, because we were bringing this campus a whole bunch closer to the sun. That's a whole bunch closer. So this is a very good way to transition. I've asked my colleagues who are locals here in this community to share with you welcoming words and just a kind of a brief reflection about the kinds of things that they do here, but really just to welcome you to this place. It's just really important when you go to a place that you're actually to know that you're wanted there, right? And so I wanted them to each have the opportunity to do it in their own way. So. This is Professor DeSipio, and this is my very, very good friend, Melody Gonzalez. I feel like we must have been friends a very, very long time ago. And also my other good friend, Professor Lilith Mahmud. So thank you.
I'm really sad that I wasn't here last night, and I just want to say that thank you, Natalia, for that. My spirit needed that today. Thank you. I'm honored to be here to welcome you all to Orange County. I was born and raised in Santana, which is a neighbor to Irvine, but in so many ways we are worlds apart. I met Tiffany when my husband and I facilitated a restorative and community building process with faculty and other residents of the University Hills neighborhood here on campus after a police-involved incident of abuse that harmed a family and shook the entire neighborhood. When she learned that I was a political science major at the University of Notre Dame, she enthusiastically said, "You have to come and do one of our welcomes." My response was, "I'm not in academia, I'm not a political scientist, and I'm not Black." I have a deep respect for spaces like these, and I wanted to recognize that. And she responded, "Look, we know the deal, and we want your voice in the mix." I'll share with you all that growing up, I actually wanted to be a politician, and that's why I chose political science as my major. And I'll never forget August of 2001, during my freshman orientation weekend at Notre Dame, when I was in front of that golden dome, with my parents, and my father said to me with tears in his eyes, "When I was crossing the desert, dehydrated, in search of a better life, never could I have imagined that one day I would have a daughter at such a prestigious university." I am the daughter of Mexican immigrants. Both of my parents were undocumented when they first came as economic refugees. My father and grandfather were abandoned at one point while crossing the Sonoran Desert and had to drink their own urine because their thirst was so unbearable. My grandfather didn't think he could continue, but my father refused to leave him to die in the desert. They eventually found their way, only to be deported one day later. But when you live in such severe poverty, barely making enough to eat, you have nothing to lose but to try again. And so they did. Eventually, all of his brothers and sisters came across, and they worked as farm workers in Oregon before settling in Santana, where he met my mother and where I was born. Throughout my childhood, my father shared stories of the struggles they faced. He remembered being treated like an animal in a machine, and every time he said that, my heart hurt so much. How could my father, a hardworking, sincere, and humble man, be treated less than human? Why would people's dignity be stripped from them because of the color of their skin or because they didn't speak a certain language? These were all questions I began to ask at a very young age. And I took these questions to Notre Dame with me, and they became even more urgent, but I did not ask them. The tragic day, September 11, 2001, happened only 3 weeks into my first semester. In my political science classes, I heard horrible things said about immigrants, and my heart would sink, and I would sink into my chair. I stayed quiet because I thought that I wasn't as smart or articulate to engage in the dialogue. I can only imagine how different my experience in the classroom would have been with individuals like you all. But it was outside of the classroom, through service learning experiences at the border and in the immigrant farm worker community of Immokalee, Florida, where my story was validated and affirmed, and I found my voice, which then I started to use assertively in my classes, in my student activism, and beyond. Immokalee, which in Seminole means my home, is considered the heart of Florida's multi-million tomato industry and a major source of winter produce sold in the United States. According to a Justice Department official, Immokalee was also ground zero for modern-day slavery. Wages in the tomato fields had been stagnant since 1978, and abuses such as wage theft, sexual harassment, and verbal abuse were part of the norm. In his book, Pedagogy of Freedom, Paulo Freire states that no one can be in the world, and with others, and maintain a posture of neutrality. I cannot be in the world decontextualized, simply observing life. After being conscious of the exploitation of workers that takes place in the fields of Immokalee and in so many other places, I believe that we're left with a choice. Do we, both farm workers and consumers, commit to the struggle for justice, or do we continue to participate in the exploitation? Political science asks us, which side are you on? And so I committed to walk alongside the struggle with farm workers for our collective liberation, and in September 2005, I moved to Immokalee to work alongside the Coalition of Immokalee Workers. I served as a bridge between farm workers, students, people of faith, corporate executives, and more. And one of my main roles was as the lead interpreter for major rallies, negotiations, and conferences. It is a skill that I've continued to develop and is part of my work today. And each spring, I'm invited to go back to Florida to interpret for major actions. I have to be quick with a sharp memory, but more than anything, I do my best to embody the emotion of the speaker. I have interpreted for authors such as Eric Schlosser, historical figures like members of the Kennedy family, senators such as Bernie Sanders. But when I interpret for the workers, for Lupe, Gerardo, Lucas, Cruz, Nelly, Santiago, Leonel, and dozens more, it's difficult to describe what I feel deep in my core. These incredible individuals teach me about the powerful change that can happen from the bottom up, from the grassroots. They are transforming the agriculture industry that feeds us, ensuring rights and dignity and respect for workers. They teach me that even the most disenfranchised and exploited human beings can and should speak for themselves. As an interpreter, I become their bridge, but not their voice or their truth. And it was through this movement that I formed my political consciousness, which continues to impact my work today, recently advocating for restorative justice in schools in Santa Ana, and also in my healing and cultural work. Although I no longer see myself running for office, I believe that political transformation happens at all levels, and we need those who uplift the dignity, rights, and well-being of the most disenfranchised and marginalized in our communities at every level. And so with that, I welcome you all and honor the work that you as activist scholars of Black women in politics do. I offer my story as a witness and testimony to the stories and histories that each of you bear, inhabit, remember, and lift up. Welcome, welcome, welcome. May we continue to struggle alongside each other. Thank you.
Well, thank you for having me today. I'm DeSipio. I'm the director of the Jack W. Peltison Center for the Study of Democracy here on the UCI campus. The Peltison Center has been around for about 15 years. We study sort of the inputs to democracy, what creates a democracy in the developing world, and then what maintains democracy in other parts of the world. We work with scholars on campus. We fund graduate students, this year about 20. And perhaps most importantly for this audience, we offer a home for folks who want to be in Southern California for a little while. Little meaning more than a couple weeks, probably. We currently have about 8 scholars from all over the world who are doing different projects with our faculty, and this is something to think about as as your careers evolve and you might want to be in Southern California. I have to apologize, the weather isn't quite as nice today as it can be, so we didn't get the perfect weather for you, which we have good share of the year. I also bring a welcome from the chair of the Department of Political Science. The Department of Political Science also is a co-sponsor of the conference with the Jack W. Peltison Center for the Study of Democracy. Our chair, Jeff Kopstein, had some last-minute travel rearrangement for an international flight and wasn't able to be with us today, but he asked that I extend his welcome and thanks as well for coming to Southern California. Think of UCI as a home, and we can find a place for you as a home. So thank you for coming.
My name is Lilith Mahmud. I'm a faculty member here at UCI in the Department of Gender and Sexuality Studies. And I'm an anthropologist by training, so I do feminist anthropology. And before I say anything more about that, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge the incredible labor of love that Tiffany has always done on this campus, but in particular in putting together with her team this amazing, extraordinary conference. UC Irvine has, in the 8 years that I've been here, has never looked like this room or like this, right? And I really want to thank each and every one of you for what you've brought, and Natalia for starting us off yesterday with such an inspiring keynote. I was told in 5 minutes to share some things about my work, so let's see how that goes. I would like to try to talk about a couple of aspects of my work that I think resonate for me with what I'm hearing here. The first one is about secrecy and practices of secrecy through which various kinds of social relationships are formed, through the sharing of secrets, to keeping things secret, not just among people, but also in relation to the state and politics. And in particular, what I've worked on is conspiracy theories and conspiracy theorizing, which in the United States, when you call something a conspiracy theory, it's immediately a surefire way to dismiss it, right? And to say that it's not legitimate. And there's a long history of describing as conspiracy theories the political critiques of marginalized groups, and of calling the viewpoints of marginalized groups paranoia, right? So pathologize it as that. And actually, when you look elsewhere, what you find is that in the global south, conspiracy theories are often socially recognized as probably the more accurate form of knowledge than what you would get from the news, because there is kind of a built-in expectation that the state is not trustworthy. But when you look at a place like the United States, where dominant ideologies are so invested in a legitimate state, then conspiracy theories are supposed to have no place, because we're supposed to believe that that transparency and good governance are opposite, and dichotomously opposite to the secrecy that characterize so-called corruption, right, of other places. But I think that actually conspiracy theories ought to be taken very seriously, not just because in many cases they've actually been literally historically true and accurate, but even when they're not, right, there's still really, really powerful social critiques that express what marginalized viewpoints don't get center stage. So this is where, I'm not a political scientist, but actually political theory is a field that has given us a historical understanding of the public as we know it, as we take it for granted, as in fact not at all being opposite of secrecy, but being born out of secrecy. So European Enlightenment, right? That was something that was theorized inside secret societies that met at a time of monarchies in Europe, right, to theorize their grandiose ideals about democracy and whatnot. So secrecy was constitutive of what then came to be seen as opposite to that. And one of the best known secret societies that during the Enlightenment was theorizing in hiding these liberal ideals of democracy and republicanism, etc., was Freemasonry. And as an anthropologist, I have done my research, my field work has been on Freemasons in Italy, where they are an elite white group. And my work there on Freemasonry has been for me an opportunity to study some of those political ideologies that were born inside of Freemasons, but that actually define our entire political system. So ideologies like democracy, human rights, humanism, liberalism. And for me, what is important about those ideologies is that they've become measures of the superiority of countries of the global north over the rest of the world. And so it's very important to analyze how they come into being. From a post-colonial studies perspective, and I don't mean to essentialize it because there are a lot of different post-colonial histories. I'm most familiar with East Africa because that's where my family came from. But across different post-colonial cases, there has been this question best summed up as mimicry, right? The question of, is the colonized subject ever able to partake of these imaginaries of humanity that were never designed with us in mind? And that's kind of the same question that then we ask of political institutions and social institutions. Can people of color, can women fit these structures that were never meant for us? And that is a really, really important question. But in my work, I have an addition to it. It's not a but it's an and. And the and that I want to add is, at the same time that we ask that important question, what we're also doing in asking it in that way is assuming a kind of primal authenticity that in the structures designed by, say, European white men, that would somehow just fit them, and that there's this natural affinity between whiteness and these high values, these lofty values that we've all come to share and believe in. And I would say, let's not concede that authenticity. Let's not assume that the rest of us are just trying to mimic what comes natural in a structure of power that is Euro-American centric and white normative, because in fact, that is not true. And studying Freemasons ethnographically really showed me how on the ground these elite white people were working so hard day in and day out to labor at constructing this identity of themselves as Occidental subjects, let's call them, that they had to work so hard at to make it seem natural. Right? And it's really important for me because white normativity today depends on that assumption. And if we look, something like the rise of Donald Trump recently, we have clear proof that, in fact, it is not at all obvious that white subjects or European subjects are naturally enlightened, right? And that kind of connection that we continue to make is one of the tools for racist and sexist practices today. Thank you, and thank you so much, Tiffany, for organizing all of this.